Yo, what's going on, guys? Let me go ahead and post the link to this real quick. Because it's not going to be too long of a stream here. Just for this one. Because it's going to be more of a reaction stream. See if I can get that done very quickly. Wait for everyone to get in here. Because what I'm going to do is download the first Spider-Man. Got the remaster. Never really played through the remaster. I usually play through the original. Because that's the one that my dad owns. Boom, boom. What's going on? What's going on? Gotta wait for everyone to get in here. What does everyone think about Venom's costume? Is there anything wrong with it? I think it looks pretty goated, honestly. Alright, alright, alright. I'm gonna go ahead and start this. Just because we're about a few minutes in. Let's see what the problem is with Venom's costume. Video is also done by, let me go ahead and see who it is. Godzilla Mendoza.
Think anyone understands Venom's costume anymore. I really just don't think anyone understands Venom's costume anymore. And I don't mean the alien symbiote, I just mean this big white spider design on the chest.
Nice design.
Have you ever noticed how it went from a logo that looked like this for decades? Now every other time you see it, if it's included at all, it looks like this. It's on nearly every version of Venom now, but I can't help but wonder, isn't it really weird for Eddie?
Why is his symbol always changing? That is a good point. Like, yeah, see, like how in the Rivals outfit, like it's completely encoded, like completely on him, like front to back. Where sometimes, yeah, like in the Sony's one, it's not even there at all. Because I don't even know if it was due to copyright or if how they wanted to implement him, since Spider-Man wasn't in that universe yet, stuff like that. It was very weird.
Brock to have another character's emblem as Venom? Does anyone even remember that this design used to belong to someone else? And can we please get some consistency going forward with Venom designs instead of this back and forth nonsense? I want to take you on a trip through the history of Venom's costume so we can understand where this design came from, why it keeps popping up, and why I think we need to see a little less of it going forward. Time for some chocolate and brains. Okay, hear me out. I can absolutely make an entire video just talking about the white spider on Venom's chest. Just watch me. This video is not about trashing Insomniac Venom if the thumbnail gave you that impression.
Dude. No, yeah, Insomniac's version of Venom is actually one of my favorites, to be honest. That's why I'm actually excited to play like as Venom in Spider-Man 2. That's gonna be exciting. Hopefully Spider-Man 3 is gonna also include something like that. I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
I'm specifically talking about this newer version of Venom's chest logo that has become the default in recent years for merchandising, video games, it even pops up a lot in the comics, and why I think there needs to be a change regarding its usage in everything. In all honesty, I don't even hate this design. Some artists make it look really damn cool, like Gerardo Sandoval or Tony Moore. Sometimes this look goes crazy, but it nags at me that it doesn't always make perfect sense to use this design, and in some situations it's inappropriate for the context. For years I always assumed that my main issue with the more modern logo change on Venom's costume was just me preferring the old one and being a typical comic fan that's resistant to change.
Yeah, you see how the old one right there was like the... Let's go back. The old one right here has... like more of a okay Zeus, I get it. Let's go back.
Make perfect sense to use this design.
Those are the red
and in
ones right
some
there.
Situations it's inappropriate for the context.
That's right.
For years I always assumed that my main issue with the more modern logo change on Venom's costume was just me preferring.
Yeah, because this one has like the fat spider, kind of more like the like a larger and a completely different version compared to his more adult, just normal spider look. He has like a fat one. He has a big one and has like 8 arms. Where the other ones, it's like climbing over his arms and stuff like that, or it's like just 4. It's always different.
The old one and being a typical comic fan that's resistant to change. Comic fans hate things that are different. I'm guilty of this in some cases. Maybe a lot of cases, but it's not new. I'm sure decades before I was born, there were some Batman fans who really hated the yellow oval and blue highlights added to Batman's costume, who would later sire children who would lament losing those things when they were taken away again. Way back in the 1980s, during Marvel's Secret Wars, our beloved Spider-Man lucked into finding a change of clothes on an alien planet after being abducted by a godlike alien that wanted to understand human morality. During this epic battle of good versus evil to satisfy the curiosity of a reality-warping immortal entity, Spidey met a new Spider-Woman and thought she stole his whole flow. But he got her back because Julia Carpenter's spider logo that Peter telepathically imprinted on the symbiote via sheer jealousy has become an
What? Dude, yes, I love how they like changed the logo. Dude, that is slick.
instant mainstay. It's arguably the most iconic alternate superhero costume of all time. Very few characters have a secondary costume as beloved and memorable as this one, or as many people who would argue it's just as good or better than the hero's original costume. And this costume itself was so well received it became its own character and is enduring in popularity well into modern times. Maybe the person wearing it changes semi-frequently, but the suit always stays the same. Well, okay, I mean, it doesn't always look the same, but it's the same one. It's not like Carnage where he got a different one from the Negative Zone and we just forget that happened. People didn't like Spider-Man's black costume initially because it wasn't what they were used to, but they quickly turned around on it and asked for Marvel to keep it around while they were halfway through writing the story where he gets rid of it. Thankfully, that led to the creation of one of Marvel's most successful anti-heroes of all time. Peter Parker got a cloth version of the costume that wasn't a sentient life form, and the original one found a bond with a morally complex loner.
What? So bro does just get a black Spider-Man suit for real? So like Eddie Brock?
Who likes to be in his underwear all the time. And the original one found a bond with a morally complex loner who likes to be in his underwear all the time. This was the birth of the dark and vengeful counter to Spider-Man, with a twisted sense of humor and all his same powers, Venom. It was clear early on he had the same costume as Spidey, but he was bigger and badder and meaner. The inherently villainous vibe of that shadowy costume and that angular spider emblem was fully realized on a character who wore that edgier look with a toothy, evil grin. And you know the rest from there. He's a bad guy, but he didn't really have great reasons to be a bad guy. And then with time, he became more interesting as he started riding the line of morality and developed into Spidey's weird monster friend that's mostly a good guy. He was originally designed by Todd McFarlane, but I think a lot of the things that we really like about Venom are more Eric Larson's doing, because ironically he didn't like the character and tried to make him look more and more ridiculous over time, but that just gave him more aura. That's where the tongue and the green drool and the giant muscles and the scary jagged eyes.
So there was 2 different takes between Todd McFarlane And who's the other one? Let's go back.
Eric Larson's doing, because
Eric Larson's doing. So Eric Larson's doing is the one part of Venom that we really do tend to like more. The more gratuitous version of Venom. Which I tend to like more. Because like, for example, in Web of Shadows, the game, it's like a little more like him fully taking over. Which I wish they ended up doing more in the Venom movies, but we'll see how it goes from there.
ironically, he didn't like the character and tried to make him look more and more ridiculous over time, but that just gave him more aura. That's where the tongue and the green drool and the giant muscles and the scary, jagged eyes come in. Venom became mostly a solo character with his own comics and a refreshing tonal recipe of dark edginess and wacky comedy. As his solo book in the 90s went on, Venom's look stayed fairly consistent, barring a few weirder examples from artists trying to really stretch the creature elements of the character. And we got the very first example of someone other than Eddie Brock being Venom, with his ex-wife Anne Wang very temporarily taking over
Dude, a woman Venom. There you go. And it's his wife too. That's pretty killer.
the mantle. It was easy enough to tell it wasn't the same character because of the body type, so not many adjustments were necessary for the design. But as Venom's once explosive popularity started to simmer off at the beginning of the new millennium, the character went through a major visual change that we're still seeing the remnants of to this day. In fact, in 20 years, we really haven't seen this version of his design lose its footing, though I wonder if that'll eventually change. Venom having his new style of chest logo may be prominent now for the time being, but that's not to say I have any worries it'll be permanent. These things have ebbs.
Dude, that Thunderbolts cover looked absolutely insane earlier, by the way. To see the new take of Venom is pretty fucking fire, honestly.
And flows. Superman loses his trunks, but then he gets them back. Spider-Man's sleeves keep getting cut, but they're back to normal. Eventually, we'll get there. It's just that this design mentality is very popular right now, and I finally realized I do have a legitimate grievance with it, outside of it just not being the classic look. But ironically, that grievance also applies to this one too. Plot twist. Okay, here it is. This is not Eddie Brock's Venom. But can you tell at first glance if you haven't read this story? How about this one? Or this one? We went from having a very strong system worked out to tell who is who with Venom's costume, and now it's completely been thrown out the window. I've realized this logo breaks the...
It would make more sense to have like different spider logos for Venom on different people, rather than them just like mix mashing it all over the place. Or maybe even doing it on like a power scale level. That would be way more.
The cardinal rule of legacy characters. Being able to tell them apart. Quick, which person is Venom in this panel? You're wrong, it's Flash. Oh, speaking of that word, think about it. Barry Allen and Wally West are both the Flash. The broad strokes of the costume are the same because it's iconic and identifiable and strongly associated with the brand, but there are little variances that change the look just enough that you can tell which character is which by just looking at them. Barry's mask has these open eyes and bright colors. Wally's has lenses to hide his eyes in a much darker shade of red. The stylization on their belts are different, even the chest logos are not identical. As long as the artists remember to color it right and keep these identifiers accurate, we the readers can very easily distinguish between them, whether they're right next to each other or in totally different stories. There's room enough for both Flashes, so this is a great compromise. But even if you make the costumes pretty wildly different for a legacy character, there's still the unspoken rule that you don't have them trading back and forth between each other. Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner, Guy Gardner, and John Stewart all go by the moniker Green Lantern, and all of them have different uniforms. Sure, maybe all these other guys started out with a traditional GL costume before making it more their own, but for decades now, they've all had their own unique look. This is...
Dude, that is such a good point, honestly. Like, having such different looks between each Green Lantern. Dude. Especially what they're going to be able to do with the DCE. Be able to utilize more Green Lantern that way. And showing what different costumes you're going to be able to utilize. Rather than, like, how Venom is now. With Venom just being kind of like... It's like the comics have been, like, kind of not been doing as good as they could be compared to the movies, honestly. I'm really hoping they can utilize that in the movie. And hopefully the comics can learn a little better. So hopefully from year fourth, they'll be better.
Great. You're never confused about which Green Lantern is which, and Hal Jordan never puts on the other 4 guys' costumes just because the artist liked one of those better. Can you imagine how weird it would be if Peter Parker showed up wearing Miles' costume? Take that off, old man! You don't deserve this drip, has-been! I'd like to formally apologize for the damage I've done to Miles Morales' reputation. I will make amends. Which brings me to the problem with Venom designs. We've had several characters go by the name Venom over the years, and each one of them started with their own unique version of the costume. I've always loved this art piece by Mark Bagley in Venom issue 155 for Marvel Legacy that very succinctly demonstrates how each Venom is meant to look different. The idea is that the suit takes on a different kind of look depending on who is wearing it. For some, it's closer to a traditional black Spider-Man costume. For others, the monstrous parts become more evident. I know we've kind of collectively forgotten about it now, but Eddie Brock was not Venom for nearly 20 years, so it made sense to eschew the specific look that he had in favor of allowing these characters to stand out more on their own. But then it went all stupid, and now it's a mess! I blame Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Then again, I also blame Angelo Fortunato.
It's probably true.
Who? Back in Mark Millar's Marvel Knights Spider-Man, the story of screwing up Venom's costume started humbly. When a repentant and terminally ill Eddie Brock initially ditched the symbiote by selling it to the highest bidder, it went to the son of a major New York crime boss. Don Fortunato bought the suit because he thought it would make his weakling teenage son more of a man to have superpowers on par with Spider-Man. Initially, Angelo Fortunato's misery at his own life and his desire to prove himself to his family by killing Spider-Man fueled the suit enough to make him a giant when he was venomed up. Angelo's raw emotions and different personality made the suit take on a new look for the first time. Designed by Frank Cho.
Dude, that is
Don't look at his Instagram. Angelo's Venom may be the shortest lived of them all, but his design did make it in Ultimate Alliance 1 and the Spidey Unlimited mobile.
Dude, what? Ultimate Alliance 1 Venom has it? Dude, I gotta play through that on the PS5 and have y'all watch. Dude, that will be so cool.
Meaner host to juice its hatred and hooked up with Mac Gargan, formerly the Scorpion. This was an interesting choice because long before Venom, Scorpion was the first real attempt at an anti-Spider-Man with a similarly arachnid-themed power set. He was sort of Venom before Venom, and the resulting Terry Dodson design isn't too far off from Angelo's look, though the logo would become an even bigger departure from that clean wraparound just the midsection. This is Mac Gargan's Venom logo, rather than the tightly knitted wave of spider legs wrapping around the
If they bring Venom in Brand New Day, we don't even realize, because I'm like, well, Scorpion's in the movie. And he's a little bit prominent in the trailers. Dude, and I noticed they brought the symbiote suit, like, in the MCU. That'd be pretty cool. And if Tom Holland's saying that we've never seen the villain yet, I wonder if it's because it's Venom. That'd be crazy. To bring him in the, well, I'm like, they gotta bring him with the black suit in fucking Secret Wars. That'd be fucking fire. Like, it's some, we just want to see what they're gonna do, right? Like, we're just gonna see what they do.
Chest and connecting to his back under the arms, it's messier and disjointed. The top 2 legs climb up over the shoulders and the bottom 2 are splayed out around his waist, even hanging down onto the legs of the wearer a bit sometimes. He would occasionally brandish a tail from symbiote mask because it felt familiar to use in combat given his previous persona. I've always kind of liked that the eyes are glowing red beads with white accents, more like face paint than Spidey eyes. Or are they yellow? Green? White. They couldn't decide on the color. It reminds me of Gargan's Scorpion mask. Even gave me some Spawn vibes. And it was a great visual indicator that this is a different Venom. Remember that detail for later because it will be important. It makes sense from a design standpoint of wanting the costume to say something about the character. Venom was conceived as a villainous mirror version of Spider-Man with all of his same powers. It's understandable to envision his costume as being a dark and twisted version of the black suit. So, instead of a simplified and clean logo, it looks like a giant gnarly tarantula with jagged edges. It's a very similar thought process to giving Bizarro a warped and reversed Superman logo. I think in Venom's case, this is a little blunt and obvious, but it at least makes sense. Then again, I would have thought him being twice Spider-Man's size and having a giant toothy Joker smile popping out of the mask would be enough to get the point across that he's a dark monster Spider-Man. Wreck Rap, is that you? But Gargan is a special case. With the historical context that Carnage was dead by this point and wouldn't resurface for another decade, Mac took the main role of a completely evil and sadistic symbiote character, so I can excuse him being drawn even more monstrous than usual. This was a Venom that was untethered by Eddie's morality and was chasing his darkest and most depraved impulses with a smile. From the beginning, Brock had an admittedly bizarre code of ethics, but Mac had no qualms about murder, theft, kidnapping, and straight-up cannibalism, though that unfortunately made—
Dude, those are some dark and gratuitous, like, scenes to be, like, drawing. Dude, that's why I love the like Carnage and Venom comics. Honestly, they're so like terrifying, brutal, or like pretty much horrendous.
Him a much less interesting character. Even after the breakup, Eddie continued being a tragic character, struggling against his demons and trying to become a hero through sheer willpower, while Gargan was eating sex workers so he wouldn't have to pay them after service. He actually was just doing a lot of violence against women in various books. Gargan is a dirtbag. Gargan's Venom didn't operate much at all outside of the context of being a goon for Norman Osborn across several years and multiple teams. We're taking the word goon back, damn it! First he was their muscle on the Thunderbolts, then he was their Spider-Man analog on Osborn's Dark Avengers when he weaseled his way into taking Iron Man's job. It was kind of a rough time to be a Venom fan, and I still remember being so frustrated as a kid that Eddie was out being a different vigilante character now, because I did not yet understand that these things are never really permanent. Eddie was transformed by Mr. Negative into Anti-Venom, but with a new design that was meant to more closely match Mac's costume with a negative filter. So he's got the eyes and the new
Dude, I wonder if they're gonna have to speedrun a bunch of this for Venom too.
Big logo. Even still, Mac's design was consistent for those first few years and easily identifiable as a different character. You'd always take a quick glance and easily assess which Venom you were looking at. The design matched his personality and reflected the uniqueness of its wearer. This was all A-okay. This was good times. And then around the mid to late 2000s, I noticed a shift happening. It seemed like artists who preferred Eddie's old look started getting lazy with the details on Mac's costume. Suddenly the eyes started going back to the original look, so it would be more classic Venom head with the new costume's body. Sometimes it would change from panel to panel in the same book depending on the scene. There was kind of this hulkification of Venom where he went from the size of a bodybuilder to a giant purple shaded behemoth that towered over other characters. He's like the size of a house. And the implication was that the less Mac was in control,
This dude is the size of the apartment building. Like, what are we gonna have to deal with? My god, in the MCU, that would be insane.
the more the symbiote's eyes would go back to the classic style. Like that was more of the default. Then after a while, as Dark Reign progressed and Mac disguised himself as Black Suit Spider-Man, his proper Venom mode would just look 100% like Eddie's. There's so many panels from this time where it's nearly impossible to tell if this is Mac, if not for the fact that he's standing next to the Dark Avengers. The lack of consistency started to become a little confusing for casual readers, and to this day there are still panels of Mac as Venom floating around that people misattribute as scenes with Eddie. Like that horny Hawkeye interrogation, or him getting the drop on Moon Knight. After getting completely fucking destroyed by Captain Marvel in the most embarrassing way possible, Gargan was forcibly stripped of the symbiote for good. And thus leads to a weird problem we've been having ever since. Even though he wasn't Venom anymore, his Venom design never really went away and would be continually thrust onto the next two guys. The alternate title of this video should really be, Stop Putting Mac Gargan's logo on everything! It's not that it's a bad logo design, it's just that this shit is confusing for the brand identity of the character. Because even when Peter Parker's former bully turned friend, Eugene Flash Thompson, became the new Venom, he didn't get his own really specific version of the emblem. Flash has arguably the least consistent design for the spider on his armored form of any Venom. In the concept phase, it seemed more like a big X with 2 legs up and 2 legs down. But hardly any artists committed to that, and when they did, it seemed like it happened mostly in titles that weren't his own. Maybe they were working based on his older model sheet and not the updated one, because they also used this little buckle thing from it too, but that's not on the final spider design in his solo series.
Yo, what?
But the main design that we see the most often
so
on him.
Strange, like the differences between each costume. What? Like buckles, no buckles. You get the 2 up, 2 down. Like sometimes it's all like, dude, like like all separate in the final design.
Is pretty much the same one from Gargan, but wrapped around insectoid body armor. Some artists did this kind of thing where they connected the legs at the joints where it bends, but most of them forgot to do that, so it really didn't look like its own thing. The most you get is that the fangs are longer on this one than usual, but even then, sometimes they would forget to draw that too. Every once in a while, the butt on the spider had 3 points instead of 2. This is all totally forgivable because the overall design is still such a huge departure from all the previous ones, utilizing a tactical body armor look. Flash looks straight out of Army of Two. And for the time, this was quite unique. The issue is that he'll spend major swaths of page time not in this design, and turning into a more traditional Venom like he's in a Hulk-like rage mode.
Holy
Rick
crap.
Remender and
Dude,
Tony
that's
Moore
fire,
gave us
though.
the first ongoing Venom book since Eddie's retirement. 2011's Venom was about Flash Thompson taking up the mantle and struggling against his depression and tenuous grasp on his sobriety. See, Venom's more interesting when the guy inside is tortured and trying to be heroic. Flash was given the symbiote by the US government in Project Rebirth 2.0, named after the program that gave Captain America his powers. Flash had full control over the inert symbiote, which was kept comatose by various anesthetics injected into it so it wouldn't talk to him or influence his actions or put thoughts into his head. He had all the powers but none of the downsides. In theory. Over a short time, the symbiote became more and more resistant to the government's sleeping meds and started regaining consciousness. And then Thompson's sleek, armored look started to...
Dude, if I was given the symbiote suit by the government, man, I don't know what I'd be capable of doing. Completing every CIA mission, finishing every FBI mission, like getting all that done so fast would be insane.
mold back into the familiar shape. And look at that, it's Mac's
Not even just that, bro. You'd just be able to borderline take over the world right now.
logo again. So, alright, we can wrap our heads around that. Flash looks mostly like the cool armored look, but when he loses control, he hulks out into the same general look as mid-level Gargan, with the old head and the new body. Until suddenly he doesn't. Further into the run, during the Spider Island event, Flash faces off against Eddie as Anti-Venom and then switches back to the pure classic Venom design. Original logo, no pointy monster toes or human eyes. What, did being near Eddie make it remember how it used to look again? Because it briefly latches onto him and it looks like his old design again, so no, we're not doing this Thermian argument crap. I'm not going to theorize an in-universe reason, because there isn't one. The only in-universe conclusion to be drawn from this is that the symbiote is a wishy-washy amorphous slime that just looks like whatever it wants to at any given time with no rhyme or reason, and it is subject to change mere seconds apart. Quick, which person is Venom in this panel? You're wrong, it's Mac. In the next issue after that, he's back to the classic logo, but with the pointy, sharp toes. Next arc after that, he's got Gargan's logo, then back to the Eddie logo, then Gargan again, then Eddie. No two artists can seem to agree on what the symbiote is meant to look like in its natural form. Both looks are fine on their own, and I'd be happy if we just picked one and stuck to it. But it becomes weird that there's no unified, consistent design, and we keep alternating back and forth. Even into the Space Knight arc, when Flash was hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy, he's got this cool spacesuit look that's really simple and nice, but as soon as the teeth come out, it's back to being middle-stage Gargan again. Even after Flash stopped being Venom, the top two legs keep going up over the shoulders like a sultry bra strap on so many characters.
Yeah.
For a short time, at the beginning of Mike Costa's run, a criminal named Lee Price became Venom, and it was a role reversal where he was the host that was totally evil, and the symbiote had reformed and become completely heroic. Lee's costume had the usual logo.
I think it was melting, dude. That dude looks terrifying. Like, dude, how would you be able to I don't get that. We gotta make sure that it's set up on here too. This is my window capture. Is it just not like... There we go. But yeah, I saw him. I'm like, dude, this dude is melting. There we go. Fixing that midstream.
Symbiote had reformed and become completely heroic. Lee's costume had
And
the
now?
usual logo, it's doing it again, but mixed it up a bit on the other details of the costume by adding more jagged white stripes from the eyes and the gloves. This was a bit of a cool but short-lived design that actually made its way into Fortnite of all things. But that story wrapped up with a new beginning when Eddie Brock became Venom once again, just in time for movie synergy. And to the credit of Marvel artists, he's mostly looked how he's supposed to since then. Proper chest logo, proper eyes. You can kind of fudge the details on the mouth a little, it's okay. But Gargan's Venom logo is still pervasive on Eddie in adaptations like cartoons and games. In fact, a huge percentage of Venom's appearances in gaming in the last 20 years still use this design, regardless of who the host is in the game. Though the original still pops up enough that it's not been totally forgotten in that realm. Shout out to Midnight Suns for having the best Eddie Brock adaptation in any medium ever. Gargan's design also appears constantly on alternate universe Venoms all over the place, and it somehow has affected things like Peter Parker's symbiote design in the main universe. During Dan Slott's final arc on Amazing Spider-Man Go Down Swinging, Eddie gives the suit to Peter to help him defeat Green Goblin mixed with Carnage. It was a whole crazy thing. And then Peter's black suit is inexplicably changed into this. Why does he have Kamina glasses? Why does it look different now? It has no reason to be a different design from the old one. It would make the most sense to be the old one.
Dude, that
I
makes
know this is such a
absolutely
sign
no
from...
sense, bro. What is going on with this black suit?
the old one. It would make the most sense to be the old one. I know this is such a stupid thing to care about, but this bugs me. It's not that I want the classic design to just be on everything. That's really not what this is about. It bothers me when I see Mac or Flash wearing that look just as much as when Eddie's got this one. I really want every person to be their own unique Venom, with their personality affecting the way the symbiote solidifies on the outside. It's just such a cool concept, but no one's really stuck to that rule. Every design may start unique, but then it just becomes a very general and recognizable blank slate Venom after enough time, and the person inside doesn't consistently input something on the outward design. You can look at any of these and definitely understand, yes, that's Venom, but which Venom is important? The host informs so much about how every version of Venom behaves. While the Gargan logo is cool in its own right, it's a little disappointing for me to see it, or even the classic logo, both just arbitrarily slapped onto any random Venom with no thought put into why. Plus, it would be a great opportunity for more artists to leave a lasting mark on the character's visuals if they're allowed to branch out from doing more than just these same two designs over and over. So I'd like to pose this question to you. If you could design a brand new Venom logo for a new host, whether it be an old character or an original one, how would it look? Tell me about it in the comments, or if you have the means to draw it yourself, send it to my socials, because I want to see what you guys come up with. Just no AI crap, that'll take the fun out of it. Be creative, come up with something new that we've never seen before. I want to see it. As much as he'll always take priority as far as hosts go, and he is my favorite one, Venom is never going to just be only Eddie. The concept of venomizing other characters has been around since the very beginning, and it's simply too cool to put down. I'm fine with other people being Venom if it's not written like crap! Sorry. But I would like the look of Venom to be informed by the character, not just whatever random thing happens to be the most recognizable in the mind of the person drawing it. Moving forward, can we collectively start making Venom designs more varied and interesting instead of a simple binary, this one or that one?
Yeah,
at least Harry's Agent Venom design had its own logo. Didn't read very well as a spider, but it was something different and I can remember it. Bottom line, they should continue to make unique Venom designs for every new host character, but they should also stay committed to those designs and stop randomly switching things back and forth between all of these characters. Thankfully, on the comics front, there's been some progress towards this. Eddie Brock's son Dylan had this new version of the chest spider that's stylized more like a dragon after all the Null retcon stuff.
That shit is
never mind.
Fucking fire, bro. The fucking Null shit.
A spider that's stylized more like a dragon after all the Null retcon stuff.
Oh wait, never mind the immediate next issue, they went back to the old one, okay.
Oh and as much as it boggles my mind to say this, Mary Jane Watson is currently Venom, sporting a new shape for the insignia and gold accents because the jackpot catchphrase has slowly become her whole character. At the very least, this version of the logo is identifiable enough that it seems like Marvel is finally starting to get the memo. Although I'm sure MJ will look like this any day now when another artist has to draw it, and we'll be back to square one. But they're learning. Hey, can we stop drawing the damn toes on him all the time? I hate it. But that's a separate issue. Quick, which person is Venom in this panel? You're wrong. It's Anne.
Yo, dude, that had to be the craziest video I've watched. Dude, that is a sick video. Thank you so much for that video, Godzilla Mendoza. I made sure to like. I'm gonna go and subscribe. Dude, I appreciate it. Okay. I hope y'all enjoyed this one. This was a great video, honestly. The costumes were completely interesting. How inconsistent they were, honestly, in the comics. So, I hope they get a little more consistency with each person. Hey, but y'all have a great one, okay? Stay tuned for more. Peace out, y'all.